Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing today? As I put in the little note, if you're watching on Facebook and you don't mind, if you do mind, no worries. It really helps me out if you watch over on YouTube because I'm still trying to hit the view hours. And my problem is you have to have a certain number of view hours in a year. And I'm coming up on, well, I already passed the year of when I started regularly doing content. So I'm competing with my content from each day as, like, say I got 10 hours of view time, whatever today was last year. I've got to get more than that today in order to catch up, if you understand what I'm saying. Though I started doing much more of the content the later the year got, so I need to catch up. So just a few things before we get started. I like giving you guys some updates of just what's the cray-cray that goes on in my life. I wanted to pull this up. So, also, the ladies like this. Okay, this thing here, another Wish top, but it was so short, I had to put another top underneath it. But I figured I just, you need to do the fashion show, you know what I mean? Okay, but besides that, let's go here, the memes. I've been bringing the memes. Apparently, I got memed. Oh, the YouTube channel name Antonio asked me is Pink Flame of Liberty. I really appreciate it. Okay, so this is me at the Colorado convention. I was being questioned by, there's a few people who weren't exactly my fans, and some of them were wondering, like, if I had, I shouldn't, this question shouldn't bother me. It's a legitimate question, but I think it's a legitimate question, I think, for people who don't know what they're getting into. But for someone who obviously knows what they're getting into, the question of, do you have enough time to do this, is just a passive-aggressive disguise for, were you stupid when you decided to run for this position because you clearly don't have enough time? And I love how other people try to be a judge of my time. I've been around long enough to know what things entail, and I don't run for things that I can't do. So my interlocutor was asking, if I had enough time. And I said, I have enough time because I don't sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. And apparently I got memed for this. So that was good. I think Angela made this meme. So there's that. Yeah, and so I just loved it because the whole expression, I was a bit exasperated there, I think you could tell. So I'm just like, I'll judge my time. You don't need to judge my time. You've known me now how long? Do I ever sign up for something I can't do? Okay, but the next thing we got is the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. And the reason why I think this is just even funnier is because I don't know what happened 2 days ago, but I posted a joke meme, the frenemy of the state one, and people lost their ever-loving minds. People, if you've been on my wall for any amount of time, you know I got nothing but love for minarchists. I don't give y'all a hard time. I don't believe in those battles. It was a joke, haha. You remember what? I don't know. Everyone's Wheaties got pissed in, but boy, they lost their ever-loving minds. And then someone posted this, and I'm telling you, I could laugh for hours. I'm sorry. God, I can't even look at it because I'll just break out and oh my God. Holy shit! It won't stop growing. Don't we think that every day we're looking at the government? It's like, holy shit! I'm sorry. Ooh, man, that's one of the best memes I've ever seen. And I forgot to share this. I got some fan art. It's slightly disturbing, so I like it. But check out this fan art I got a few months ago. That's me posting dank memes. Woof! I'm just having too good of a time. Okay. Ooh. Holy shit, it won't stop growing. Okay, now on to the topic. And actually, the title might have been a little overly pessimistic. I mean, we're always getting bent over, but I think we might have actually, been taken out to dinner first this time because it's not all bad news. It's mostly better news. I don't want to say good news because it's almost like, you take as good news when you only get screwed up, you only get right 5 times rather than 10 times. And that's a good day. That's pretty bad when you're thinking of that. But we've had some victories in, generally speaking, or relatively speaking. So I've got the ballot access news from May 1st. You guys also can subscribe to this. Richard Winger, who's the guy who writes this, does phenomenal work. You can get a lot of this for free online, but really, he'll send you one a month in paper for $18 a year. It's very nice to support his work if you go to, I think it's ballotaccessnews.com. Let me try to see here. Or richardwinger@yahoo.com. You can use that PayPal address, $18, and get a subscription. But we're just going to go through this. So on the headline this month, which is nice, U.S. District Court strikes down Georgia's 5% petition for U.S. House. This one is phenomenal. If any of y'all know, we've had problems in Georgia. Okay, we've had a lot of well, I'm not going to make any Georgia jokes. We've had some problems. Don't come for me, Laura. Like, y'all are cool, okay? So, I'm trying to, okay. The 5% signature requirement for nominees for independent candidates and nominees of minor parties is 5%. And it hasn't been successfully overcome since 1964. Okay? Isn't that crazy? So back then it was easier to petition. And it just got overturned. And the basis for it, and thank you, someone said, like, my claws, I'm like obsessed with my nails. My nails are always funkified. And people thought I did this with like a highlighter pen. No, this is a new OPI polish. All right. So the basis for the court striking this down was that it was overly difficult. Like, it just bothers me that there's any of these requirements to begin with, to be honest with you, particularly in the electronic age. But, okay, the state has no interest in making it difficult. But the Republicans and the Democrats do, don't you know? Okay, but let's continue. Continuing. I'm trying to... Okay, this is what I was looking for. This 5% thing has been so difficult to overturn because in 1971, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld this 5%. And of course, once the Supreme Court weighs in, I mean, you're pretty much screwed. And upheld it for minor party and independent candidates. But, see, what people need to understand is when these decisions are made, they only consider evidence that's presented before the court. And the parties make very strategic decisions, I'm a paralegal in case you didn't know, about what they're going to present to the court. And sometimes the issue that something might have been decided on and the fact pattern would be completely different. So we might run around saying, oh, this 5% was upheld, but you can't stop at that. You need to go look at under what grounds. Like, what were the issues in 1971? So in that case, there was no evidence about the difficulty of petitioning. And that is what got it struck down now. In that case, which was filed by the Socialist Workers' Party, they had argued that no one needed a petition to get on a primary ballot, so it should be unconstitutional to require a petition to get on the general ballot. And the Supreme Court rejected that argument. I don't think that's a bad argument, to be honest with you, but they struck it down. And let's see here. It says, unfortunately, despite the lack of evidence in that case, lower courts since then interpreted that case to mean that 5% petitions are always constitutional. And you can see the flaw there. Totally different fact patterns. It wasn't even really dealing with the percentage. The Socialist Workers' Party were arguing about the idea of a petition existentially, not what the percentage was. And it says over the years, this has eroded, and slowly 5% petitions have been struck down. Okay, so that was Georgia. In Montana, we talked about this the last ballot access I did. There was a bill that's waiting to be finally passed. It finally got passed for new party petitions, which, and this, to me, the fact that the law had to say this is crazy to me. So number one, it says that a signature is valid even if the signer used his or her middle name on the voter registration but left it off on the petition or vice versa. You had to say that? Like, if it's obvious that's that person, who cares? They used to be so fussy with these petitions that it would take very little to invalidate them. And then it says, that a voter who signs the petition and then wishes to withdraw their signature must do so by the March petition deadline. Because an ambiguity in the law before meant that they could withdraw their signature after it became too late for the petitioning party to make it up, like get a new signature to replace the one they lost. And number 3, it says any elector may present a petition to request that a political party may qualify. The words where it says any elector, it used to say a party. And what the dispute had been is that the Green Party didn't make enough signatures. Something happened where the Green Party gave up. They stopped trying. So the wily Republicans, wanting to give more competition to the Democrats, petitioned on behalf of the Green Party. The Green Party even disavowed it. But they petitioned on behalf of the Green Party. Things went to court because the law said a party may petition. And the way it was worded, it certainly seemed to be the same party that was being requested to be qualified. Now, and I'm not so sure I agree with this, any elector can petition for a party to qualify, which means over against that political party's objections. The Green Party didn't want the Republican help there. And that number 3, I don't like that. And these votes, these politicians just need to be taken out and spanked by a damn good dominatrix. That's all I can say. Because look, every Republican and both, that might be enjoyable to some of them. How about by a real shitty dominatrix who isn't even good at spanking? That's good. That's twisted, isn't it? Okay. Every Republican voted, and both houses voted yes, and every Democrat voted no. Really? Seriously? These party line, they need to explain themselves. This is what's crazy. Anyway, so New Jersey. Now, here's another one that just it's a win, but the fact that we even had to argue this. When I say we, I mean all of us, no matter what everyone who's being affected by ballot censorship is what I mean by the we, because it's not always the Libertarian Party that are the plaintiffs in these cases, or the petitioners. So, New Jersey out-of-state circulator ban struck down. Who the F cares who's circulating the petitions, like the people you hire? Why do they have to live in the state? They're employees. They're like, sign this. What do you care? Isn't that crazy? I just can't even believe that there was a ban on that. But apparently there was, and there still is in some states. And it was struck down in New Jersey. But let's see. I wanted to look at for why. And this is good old Rocky De La Fuente was the plaintiff in this one. So, the Third Circuit remanded the case back to the lower court and said the law could only survive if the state showed it had a compelling need for the restriction. Yeah, what's the compelling need? The fact that you want to, make things a pain in the ass for minor parties and independent candidates is not a compelling need. The state then said that the ban was needed to protect freedom of association for the Democrat and Republican parties because supposedly those parties didn't want non-members of their state parties petitioning. But the parties themselves never submitted any statements to the court, so it wasn't a convincing argument. Okay, I do think a party should be able to say who who they hire, who their petitioners are. But you don't need a law to do that. Just don't hire any out-of-state petitioners. I call bull Patuki on that. Nonsense. And it says non-members of their state parties. There could be non-members of your state party in state. Right? Should just say non-members, but then that wouldn't be justification for out-of-state ban, would it? It's just trying to make things difficult. Because if there's a bunch of petitioning, let me tell you why they would want this. Why the Republicans or Democrats would want this. Because if it was an election season with a lot of competition or perhaps ballot initiatives going on, there would be a scarcity of petitioners within the state. It's a very limited pool of people who do this. And the Republicans and Democrats could pay more, sop up all the petitioners in the state, and leave the poorer parties without any recourse of bringing in people that, to compete in the market. It's dirty. It's absolutely dirty. States that still ban out-of-state circulators for at least some types of petitions are Maine, Montana, New York, North Dakota, and South Dakota, with lawsuits pending in Maine and Montana. In New York, the LP had won a case in the district court that the ban was unconstitutional, but in the middle of that, the LP then became a qualified party, got ballot access, but then, of course, that got taken away, so this lawsuit can be revived. But let's give a hearty boo to those states that Why don't you just require that all petitioners, let's just pick some other arbitrary thing, be 5'6" and above, between the ages of 32 and 39 and a half, and wear a size 7 to 11 shoe, either male or female. That would make as much sense. Here we go. All right. Graveline precedent will help ballot access in Tennessee. So, Sixth Circuit said that Michigan's 30,000 signature requirement for statewide independence is unconstitutional. The time for Michigan to request rehearing has passed, so it's now the law. It stands. Law through courts. 30,000 would be less than 1% of the last gubernatorial vote in Michigan. Now, the Sixth Circuit also includes Tennessee, where the petition for a new party is 2.5% of the last gubernatorial vote, just over 56,000 signatures. It's obviously more than the one that just got struck down. And this has not been met by any party since 1968, so we're on the way to victory in Tennessee, at least on that issue. Now, in 2016, the Green Party sued, and the Tennessee law was upheld, but the difficulty of petitioning was not argued in that case. And it was a non-reported case. I don't know if you guys know what it means. Like, if you're reading Ballot Access News and it says it's non-reported, if I wasn't a paralegal, I wouldn't understand this. There are things called law reporters, and they're published by Westlaw, I think. I think they're still published by Westlaw. And it's books. It's all electronic now, but it used to be books. And where I work, but though I did put in my 2 weeks notice, is in Florida. So the law reporters, and only appellate decisions are reported, not every case. So the reporters, the law reporters, which is the name of the books, that covers Florida is Southern Second, the Southern Second reporter. So when you see like a case citation that's like 535 SO period 2D 835, that means it's the 520th volume of the Southern Second Reporter, page 835 and following. So now you just learned something about how to cite legal cases and what those numbers mean. But non-reported cases are generally non-appellate cases, or just cases for some reason that the court didn't decide needed to be included in the reporters. And without it being reported, you don't know the basis. You don't have like an official ruling that's in the public record. You could go get a certified copy of the order from the courthouse, but, PETA. I don't mean PETA like the people eating tasty animals. I mean PETA like, pain in the booty, or also the delicious bread for sandwiches. Okay. Continuing. All right. More lawsuits. So all of the like news was good. Even though some of that shit we shouldn't have had to have done in the first place. More lawsuit news. Arizona. Arizona removed Kanye West from the ballot and said, we'll tell you why later. Ain't that something? Can you imagine? We're just going to like totally remove some of your basic rights here. We'll tell you why later. And they still haven't explained why. And he collected more signatures than anyone else. Florida. A candidate for school board filed a lawsuit over the law that it was illegal to mention your party affiliation in any campaign materials when you were running, or any campaign ad, it said, but you know what I mean. I suppose all campaign materials would be an ad of some sort, right? In a nonpartisan race. To me, you know, it's a restriction of freedom of speech that should get struck down. Illinois. Check this out. The state Supreme Court construed the law to mean that a petitioner who circulates for a primary candidate cannot then circulate another petition for an independent candidate that same year, even if the offices are different. Why? What is the compelling interest there? Besides protecting the duopoly, which we all know is really what underlines nearly all of this crap. New Mexico, there was a challenge that the Libertarian Party was not a major party in New Mexico. And they said, let's see here, that it must have polled for 5% for president in 2020 to be a major part. Joe Jorgensen did not get 5% in New Mexico in 2020. But the Secretary of State disagreed. And it says a qualified major party is any whose candidates receive 5% of the total number of votes cast at the last preceding election for governor or president. Never mind, they did get over 5% for Joe Jorgensen. I don't know what they're arguing about, but whatever. They argued about it. We got it. We're still a major party. I think there's this is just very confusing as to what exactly they were arguing about. I'm going to need to read this. I'm not sure it's reported yet because it's been appealed to the state Supreme Court. And there's a reference number here. I'm going to look that up. I might actually look it up at the end of this show. Ohio. There were petitioners who wanted relief from some of the requirements during COVID. The court refused to hear it. All right. It says the U.S. District Court granted relief, but then the Sixth Circuit reversed. Now, here's one I actually agree with. If we're going to vote and have that whole, political theater. In Pennsylvania, the state Supreme Court ruled that a petition signature is invalid if the address doesn't match the address at which the voter is registered. That seems reasonable to me. I'm sure it's racist in some way that I just can't think of, but yeah, it seems reasonable to me. Now, he has a very extensive book review in here. And at first I thought it was like, a political book, I'm going to get it. And then I read his review and I'm like, I don't want to read this. So the book review is called The Politics Industry, where apparently the authors are arguing for a top 5 system, where there would be basically a jungle primary where everyone would come in the primary. It'd just be one gigantic primary. And the top 5 to come out of it would be in the general election. This would make things even worse for minor parties. Because at first you might think, well, that's not so bad. You'll have the Democrat, the Republican, but no. It's the primary. So you could have 20 Democrats, 20 Republicans, and 1 Libertarian on there. What do you think the chances are Libertarians going to make the top 5? They don't only got to beat 1 Democrat. They got to beat them all. All except for 4. I mean, I'll have to, you know what I'm saying. Math is hard. No. no thank you. But they do favor ranked choice voting. So, okay, that's nice. And he points out some, errors and whatever. I just didn't have any interest in it after I read his. He goes through a lot here, though, like of the history of how candidates used to have been nominated. But one thing that I loved is he gave some data, because I'm going to be having as a guest on my show coming up someone who's going to try to convince me, good luck with that top 2 is good for the LP. Yeah? Well, there's a nice little chart here that shows where minor parties have placed in California and Washington since top 2 for governor or U.S. senator. And newsflash, it sucks. It says, the reason minor party candidates for governor and U.S. senator do so poorly in top 2 primaries is that there's always many Democrats and Republicans running, and voters in primary season are paying more attention to them, and the press won't cover that minor party candidates because they assume they won't place in the top 2. And there's things here that I hadn't heard of. In Louisiana, apparently, let me give you a hint. If you ever are taking any kind of test that has a law question, in which it says, in all states except X, all these things are true. So, let me tell you, the exception to nearly everything, if you're in Louisiana, you already know this, is Louisiana. Let me tell you trivia. You might be on like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire one day, and if you win on a question that has to do with this, you got to cut me in. All of the United States is based upon English common law, except Louisiana. Louisiana is based upon the Napoleonic Code. Most people don't know that. So a lot of attorneys get licensed in Louisiana, they don't get licensed elsewhere. I mean, it's an entirely different system. And that's why a lot of attorneys that are licensed elsewhere don't also have a license in Louisiana. Just an interesting artifact of history. So it says Louisiana abolished primaries. What? I think he had a mistype here, because let me read you the sentence. I think he meant to abolish primaries, party primaries. And Elmer had a comment I'd like to put up here because I'd like to thank him. Thank you very much, Elmer. I do appreciate the encouragement. Okay, so this is the sentence he wrote. Louisiana is the pioneer state for abolishing party nominees. Maybe that's right. I think he meant party primaries, though, because isn't the I'm not, maybe, again, it's Louisiana. Napoleonic Code. I'm not French. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, it has 45 years of experience. In Louisiana, there are no primaries, except presidential primaries. There are merely general elections in which no party or candidate is excluded. Why isn't there, I mean, that sounds great. No party or candidate excluded. Why isn't it like that everywhere? If no one gets 50%, there's a general election runoff shortly after the general election itself, which could be cured if you did ranked choice voting. And it says, astoundingly, this book, talking about all the problems and solutions, doesn't even mention Louisiana. Now this, blanket primary. I've never heard of a blanket primary. And in case you guys haven't, you'll learn too. It says here, it's a system in which all candidates run on a single primary ballot, and the top vote getter from each party qualifies for the general election. In some blanket primaries, independent candidates petition separately and do not participate. Listen, I hate primaries. But as primaries go, okay. Why do I hate primaries? Because they're theft funded. Political parties are private organizations that should not get public funds to pick their political candidates. Colorado used to be solely a caucus state. everything should just be that way. The LP, because we're a minor party in Colorado, we get to opt out of primaries, except for there's one exception. So every once in a while there is a Libertarian primary, but usually the delegates kind of pressure the candidates to do what they need to do to reach an agreement so we don't get forced into a primary. But I know I know the arguments, because, and I know that mine can see somewhat hypocritical, going, you know, why, how can you be opposed or so vehement against primaries because they're theft funded? Isn't the general election theft funded? Yes, but the general election is just something that's absolutely required if we're going to do, you know, this political theater of voting, the get out of anarchy free card, this game we all play and pretend like it means something sometimes. But primaries are to select the nominees. That's the business of the political parties themselves, not public funds. Okay, let me see if there was anything else in this review. Oh, and there was an interesting error in here. It says the book says on page 147 that the Supreme Court ruled in a Washington state case that top two primaries do not violate freedom of association for parties. And Mr. Ringer notes, actually, I need to put up that meme. Actually, the Supreme Court said there wasn't enough evidence in the case to know whether top two violates freedom of association. When there's such basic errors like this is one reason why I don't want to read the book. You know, when you're reading something in which the authors purport to know more than you do, like, and you can't independently verify it through your own knowledge, and there's errors like that, I can't trust it. Okay, and he has a list here, if somebody wanted to go get the orders, of unreported cases that struck down or enjoined ballot access law. Yeah, this dude is obsessed. I'm just saying. But I'm glad, because we benefit from that. He's a resource. All right, last page here. Legal Marijuana Now Party qualifies in Nebraska. And only one reason I wanted to talk about this. I kind of adore these little issue parties, because to me that's pretty effective politics. You win your issue and you disband. And everyone is united around this one issue. You know? It's kind of cool, right? But this is an example where I had been answering some of the anti-caucus sentiment within the LP. And I asked people that, well, at least I said, I find it odd that you're opposed to caucuses, but you're in a political party, which is basically a caucus within the general population of the United States. And then caucuses within the party are just subgroups within a larger caucus. But I don't see how you can be opposed to the idea of caucuses when that is what a political party is. And I think we make it very obvious when you have these single issue parties that they're just a little caucus or a little special interest group that then dissolves. There's some special elections they mention. Some minor party members that won local races. There was a Green Party person, but I'm not concerned about that. LP member Troy Brooks was elected to the city council of Alva, Oklahoma. Okay, back in my theology days when I owned Theology Web, there was a real obnoxious dude that I debated that was named Troy Brooks. Now, I know that's a common name, but wouldn't it be funny if that was the same guy? And here I am, like, well, we're both in the LP. I mean, he was annoying enough to be in the LP. Let's just put it that way. 3 parties petitioned for president in Arkansas. Okay. Some parties are getting started and they're petitioning in Arkansas. Green, American Solidarity, and Prohibition Party. To me, the Prohibition Party is just like the funniest thing. They're still like all about getting alcohol prohibition back. If anyone needs to drink, it's these people. I wish I had some alcohol, but caffeine, it's a drug. I'll drink to that. And Communist Party. Communist Party. Sorry. Just, it induced my vomit reflex. The national leadership, comrades. I'm sorry. Because I'm hearing just communist music in my head. The national leadership of the Communist Party recently recommended that the party, comrades, once again run candidates for public office. And the last time they did so was in 96. In 2020 in Vermont, some dude just used the label communist, even though he wasn't a member of their party, because he was able to get on the ballot with no petition. I'm wondering if he was just trolling people. Wouldn't that have been funny if he was just trolling the communists, but he was a total capitalist? That would have been fucking hilarious. Okay. So, I'm just making sure there's nothing in chat with questions. So, I'll just go free association here a minute. Give you guys time. Let me put this up here. Perennial question. Would it be beneficial to nominate the candidate for president a year or few earlier than Republicans, Democrats to have more time for gaining ballot access and to prolong the campaign? Yes and no. This Spike Cohen's wife is making it her mission right now to try to get a bylaw on the next convention for consideration to nominate our candidates the year prior. We used to do that. And we stopped. Their argument is part of yours. They'd have more time to campaign. It doesn't give more time to gain ballot access, and let me explain why. The ballot access has certain windows that are in the year of the... It might gain a little bit, but the year before, it's not going to gain anything in the year before. The ballot access windows are usually from let's just say March to the end of July or something. It's usually very limited windows to meet the requirements when it's not just a percentage of the last election, when you have to petition. I'm going to say the quiet thing out loud, though. Let me tell you what I think is the real reason why we don't do it. There are certain people in the party who actually liked Bill Weld, for instance, who want, if we nominate too early, we don't get to get the retreads, the also-rans from the cast-offs, the sloppy seconds from the Republicans. That's my opinion. Don't come for me. So I'd like to see it, even if just for that. That would be my motivation for voting for it. We'd get less retreads. Now, what do I mean by retread? Before the restarts, I don't mean anybody who used to be another party. Nearly all of us used to be another party. I only know 2 second-generation libertarians, Nick Sarwark and Avins O'Brien. I'm talking about the people that are so new to their switch that they still stink of their former party. And for some of them, the stink never goes away and they go back, like Bill fucking Weld. Others, they stay and they're no longer retreads, like Gary Johnson. And hopefully, Justin Amash is moving out of the retread category. He's getting there. His little pissy attack on anarchists on Twitter, which is going to take me a while to get over with, I did a whole show of, bothered me. But I think that was just newbie mistake. And that's why you don't make newbies your presidential nominees. Just like you don't make the new convert the pastor of the church. Yeah, we have, what is Aleppo? Death says hello. I mean, I'm literally, look, death, hello. Not today, Satan. Not today. Speaking of Satan, I didn't plan that segue at all. Woof. Okay. So, I'm just going to give a little brief personal update while seeing if there's any other questions, and otherwise we'll be on the way out. As some of you know, earlier this week, I just had it with my job, which I've been miserable at. And I gave my 2 weeks notice without having another job. I just couldn't do it anymore. So, this gives me an opportunity for me to appeal to your sympathies. If you enjoy my work, please consider becoming a patron. Whole free market thing. I'm only $11 a month away from my May goal. There's only a few days left in May. You can help me make my May goal. So I need $11 worth of patrons to make my May goal. So that's all I will say on that. I wanted to give you, most of you know, I now have the hat trick of secretarial positions in the LP. The secretary for the Libertarian Party of Douglas County, the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and the National Libertarian Party. Ka-ching, right? Okay. But I just got elected to LP of Colorado. And I'm already hitting the ground running. I got the position because I'm sleeping with the chair, quite honestly. It's a joke. My husband got elected chair. It's a joke. Gotta tell that, because libertarians be uptight. So, Wayne, my husband, of the Shut the Door fame, he made a promise at my goading that, because this has been my hobby horse, and I'm going to tell you another idea we have, and I want your ideas. You guys, you're either going to love this or you're going to hate it. So the first one isn't the one you're going to love or hate, the second one. So the first one is we want to affiliate the whole state of Colorado. It's ridiculous that we only have 5 affiliates. Now, I know part of the no, maybe there's 7. But we have 60-something counties. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? But part of the problem is a lot of our state is rural. And there might be 5 people in a county. And that makes it difficult. But there's no reason why you can't have multi-county parties or regional parties. We used to. The last board, totally, shut down any attempt we made to, we were trying an adoption model. I can get into that, but we were trying to do some multi-county parties. And they said, no, you're not allowed. I don't believe that for a second. So today, I started doing the research, got in touch with Colorado Secretary of State to find out. If there's a will, there's a frickin' way. See, Mike, I thought it was... Mike Seebeck's here. 64. I forget how many affiliates we have. It's 7, 8, whatever. But I just kind of lost my train of thought here. So Wayne said he's going to affiliate the whole state. Ambitious. But it's going to be through regional. I do not believe it's not possible. I want to know, what are the Republicans and Democrats doing? Do they have actual individual parties? We might need to do some things creative to make it work within Tracer, which is our campaign finance reporting system. But I don't think there's not a... We're clever. We're clever. We can find a way around this. Now, I think it might be our bylaws that are in the way of state law of affiliating the entire state, which the delegates elected Wayne to do, so he has a mandate. But fortunately, if we need to change our bylaws, we can call a special convention for that purpose. So I'm doing the research. And I will be involving you, Mike, once I know more facts. And I did something else for this. Oh, the second idea. Wayne was supposed to mention this when he was asking for votes, but he didn't take notes up with him and he forgot. I'm tired of us just doing the same thing. And the promises that candidates make, I don't know if it's the same in your affiliate, but they'll get up and in Colorado, they'll be Mike, for the idea I have to get around Tracer, our bylaws might be an issue. Talk to me. Because listen, we'll see. I don't want to get into that here. Maybe we'll do a separate show on it. Maybe we'll talk about it on Cult of RONR. But, I lost. Okay. I'm tired of, here's the promises. We're going to do outreach boosts, and we're going to run candidates, and that should be a given. I don't want to hear that in your speech to be elected. That should be a given. That would be like the national secretary going, I'm going to take minutes. Well, no shit, Sherlock. What are you going to do beyond that? You have to assume that if you're up there, you're qualified in the basic core competencies. What's the extra you bring? What's the special sauce? I want to know the special sauce. So, A big complaint is that the media doesn't cover us. You can't force it. You got to make your own media, or make yourself so interesting that they have to. So what I want to look into, well, before we get into that, I'm going to tell you anecdotally, but I'm going to give you a warning up front. This is a public service announcement. Please preemptively unclench your assholes. Okay? Please, let's just do this right now. Stop. Center yourself. Now, breathe, and then concentrate down to your butthole. Consciously unclench it right now. Just relax. Just let it relax. The sphincter is happy and relaxed, okay? That's not the problem, though, Mike. I'm telling you, you don't know how creative I'm getting. So now with the relaxed sphincters, listen to me. There is a shirt and a button that I wear that you think would turn off the normies, because it upsets libertarians. Like, we're so self-conscious about what we believe. Like, I think sometimes, I don't know, we're weird. To me, we should be proud of what we believe. It's the right thing. But this shirt and button, that when I go out and wear it, the button I get giveaway. Like, within an hour of being out of the house, somebody asks me for it, and I just give it to them. I'm not going to give them the shirt, because, But it's my button that says, re-legalize recreational cocaine. No, not my nice tits for an old lady. Actually, it says nice chest for an old lady. But, which is true, by the way. I do have a nice chest. But, and for an old lady. Not even just for an old lady. Let me tell you, I got a nice chest for a young lady. Let's not even get into that, Carol Moore. Okay, so re-legalize recreational cocaine. The normies freaking love that button. We get all clenched asshole about it, but they love it. So here's my idea. And it's not necessarily using that saying, so settle down, Beavis. But something bold and controversial and conversation starting like that. I want to find a place that will balance our budget with enough visibility and buy a billboard that with LP stuff on it that says something like that, to create our own media. You have to. You have to do something to create your own media. And I know, like, some libertarians are going to have a fucking cow. But that's my next research project. Now, what to put on it, I don't know. I'd like it to be more current. Listen, if I don't come up with anything, it's going to be recreational cocaine. And in Colorado, that's interesting, because we were the first with recreational, pot. But whatever. Something striking. And get a conversation started. And perhaps have a subdomain or a website that just deals with that. If we were in the middle of the lockdowns, it would be something like that. But there's always something stupid going on in Colorado that we can highlight. Billboards aren't that expensive, Mike. Looked into it already. It depends on where you get it. But maybe it'll be a bus bench. I don't know. But you get the general idea. So that's one of the things. Because we made money this convention. Though I think our convention organizers might be a little horrified to realize that that's what my plans are. I don't know if it'll pass the board. I'm just telling you my ideas. Don't know. So, and I've got a few other ideas, but those are the two I've been working on so far. All right, guys. I'm going to show you this once more. Have pity on me. I'm going to be jobless as of June 1st. If you could become a patron. I'm going to be like, we'll live stream for food. Well, that's it. And tomorrow night, I am on my way to Atlanta to do regional training. But I've promised always to do something about history either on Friday nights or early AM, and my ass will be in the airport, because I'm sleeping in the airport because I'm going on the cheap, at 2 a.m. live streaming, if I can, on history to keep my promise. So I will see you tomorrow night, and maybe I'll do some live streaming of this training if that is allowed by our libertarian overlords. Have a good evening, mi guapas de libertad.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians, or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they wanna